Hello, and welcome to today's video. Have you ever wondered what would happen if all hospitals were privately owned? You probably don't want that to be true now, but it will probably be the case at some point that you will only be treated if you can bring enough money. But why is the state giving away such important things as healthcare and privatizing these sectors? Who among us hasn't experienced it? A public service that's underfunded and overworked, long wait times and underperformance. But what if there is a solution to these problems? What if privatization is the answer to our demands for efficiency and quality? In this video, we will explore the concept of privatization of public goods and services and discuss the pros and cons. Let's find out together if privatization is indeed the future and what impact it could have on our society. Also, find out to what extent you should even care about the privatization of oil, public goods, and services. What is privatization? The concept of privatization of public goods and services has become increasingly important in recent years and has led to heated debates. This involves the transfer of control and responsibility for public services from government agencies to private companies. Examples of different areas where privatization has made massive inroads include energy supply, transportation, education, and health, and other public services. By transferring control and responsibilities to private companies, public services should become more efficient and effective. This can be achieved through the use of new technologies, increased competitiveness, and greater customer focus. Why are public goods and services privatized? There are many reasons for privatizing public goods and services. They can be political considerations, economic factors, or even better management. One of the most important goals of privatization is to increase efficiency. Through competition in the market, private companies should be motivated to improve their services and reduce costs. In addition, privatization can also help stabilize public finances, as private companies often have a greater focus on maximizing profits. Another goal of privatization is to encourage innovation and investment. By using new technologies and increasing competitiveness, the quality of public services can be improved. In addition, the use of public capital can also improve infrastructure, which in turn can reduce the need for public funding. Examples of privatization. One of the most well-known examples of privatization of public services is the privatization of water supply. In many countries, control of the water supply has been transferred from government agencies to private companies in order to achieve better efficiency in management. Another example is the privatization of road transport, such as the transfer of control of roads and bridges to private companies. These may be companies specializing in the maintenance and renewal of road infrastructure. Privatization is also becoming increasingly important in the energy supply sector. This may involve the transfer of control over power plants and electricity grids to private companies. And now you come into play. To what extent does the privatization of public goods and services affect you? Let's assume that there is a hospital in your city that was previously publicly owned, but has now been privatized. Control over hospitals has been transferred to private companies. This results in a number of advantages. The first thing that results is increased efficiency. Private hospitals often have higher efficiency than public ones because they operate under economic considerations and are geared towards maximizing profit. This can lead to improved organization and faster operations. Private hospitals often have better financing options than public ones and can therefore invest in new technologies, leading to a higher quality of medical care. Patients often have more choices in privatized hospitals because they can choose from a larger number of providers. However, this privatization of a hospital also results in some disadvantages, which the general public in particular has to bear as a whole. Private hospitals are usually more expensive than public ones because they have to make a profit. This can result in the exclusion of certain segments of the population who cannot afford more expensive medical care. Private hospitals are less regulated than public ones, which can lead to a decline in the quality of medical care and inadequate protection for patients. Privatized hospitals often focus on maximizing profits, which can conflict with the goal of providing medical care. However, it has become apparent that these companies were often no longer focused on the needs of patients, but rather primarily on their own profit interests. This has led to a deterioration in the quality of medical care. As a result, privatized hospitals often offer only specialized services and cut expensive, non-lucrative services from their care programs. It is especially difficult when many hospitals have been privatized and care is no longer provided for individual areas in a large area. In addition, privatized hospitals are more likely to recommend treatments that can make a lot of money. Furthermore, private companies are often interested in short-term profits and will therefore not make long-term investments in public goods and services. This can lead to a deterioration of infrastructure and quality of services. If a single private company controls a particular service, a monopoly may result. This can lead to unnecessarily high prices for services and a decline in the quality of services. Often, private companies do not have the same interest in treating and paying their workers well as public public entities do. This can lead to wage cuts and a deterioration in working conditions, which at the same time also leads to a deterioration in work performance. This contradicts the very concept of providing the best possible care. On the other hand, a privatized hospital can also reap large profits, making it attractive as an investment. If a company such as a hospital is well managed, high profits are possible. If you like this video, we appreciate a thumbs up and that you subscribe to our channel. Summarized advantages and disadvantages of privatization. Privatization of public goods and services is a controversial topic, and there are both advantages and disadvantages. In summary, the advantages of privatizing public goods and services are the same as the reasons for privatization: increasing efficiency, private capital, maximizing corporate profits, promoting innovation, and improving quality. The issue is controversial, however, due to the many disadvantages of privatization. One of the biggest drawbacks is that private companies are often focused only on their own profit interests and do not necessarily consider the needs of users or the general public. In addition, privatization can lead to a loss of control and oversight of public services, which can lead to a deterioration in quality, especially when outsourcing work to third-party companies or focusing solely on maximizing profits for their own company. After a detailed analysis of the privatization of public goods and services, it can be said that there are both advantages and disadvantages. On the one hand, privatization can lead to increased efficiency and better service, but on the other hand, it can also lead to higher costs, a loss of public control, and reduced responsibility for social issues. In order to appropriately balance the advantages and disadvantages of privatization, it is important for governments to weigh carefully when considering whether privatization should take place. A thorough analysis of the potential impact on the public and open communication with all affected parties should be part of this process. Recommendations for governments may include reviewing current needs for public goods and services and weighing the pros and cons of privatization. The government should conduct thorough research and analysis of the potential impacts of privatization, such as the effect on access, quality, and cost of public goods and services. The government should also consider the social and political implications of privatization, including potential changes in public values, distribution of power and influence, and democratic accountability. Considering whether there are alternatives to privatization, such as public-private partnerships or government regulation. The government should assess the feasibility and effectiveness of alternative models, including their ability to achieve desired outcomes, manage risks, and ensure public accountability. The government should also engage in dialogue and collaboration with relevant stakeholders, including private sector actors, civil society organizations, and international partners, to identify and leverage synergies and complementaries. Careful monitoring and regulation of private providers to ensure that they fulfill their obligations to the public. The government should establish clear and enforceable standards and criteria for private providers, including performance targets, quality standards, and reporting requirements. The government should also invest in robust monitoring and evaluation systems to track compliance, identify problems and challenges, and provide feedback to both providers and the public. Open communication with all affected parties, including the public, unions, and private providers, to ensure that all concerns and issues are addressed. The government should establish transparent and inclusive processes for engagement and consultation, including public hearings, surveys, and feedback mechanisms. The government should also ensure that relevant information and data are readily accessible and understandable to all stakeholders, and that their views and feedback are taken into account in decision-making. Continually reviewing and adjusting regulation to ensure that the public's interests are protected. The government should regularly evaluate and update regulatory frameworks based on evidence-based analysis and consultation with stakeholders. The government should also ensure that regulatory bodies are independent, impartial, and well-resourced, and that their decisions and actions are subject to review and oversight by the public and other institutions. As governments consider whether to privatize public goods and services, it is important that they carefully review their options and make decisions that prioritize the public interest. This can involve considering alternative models, such as public-private partnerships or government regulation, as well as engaging in open communication with all stakeholders to ensure that concerns and issues are addressed. It is also crucial that private providers are carefully monitored and regulated to ensure that they fulfill their obligations to the public. By continually reviewing and adjusting regulations, governments can ensure that public goods and services remain accessible, high quality, and accountable to the needs of the people. Ultimately, by prioritizing the public interest and promoting a transparent, inclusive, and collaborative decision-making process, governments can build trust and confidence in their ability to deliver essential services to their citizens. Public involvement can help ensure that decisions are made more transparent transparently and responsibly by listening to citizens' concerns and providing opportunities for their voices to be heard. This can take the form of public discussions, citizen surveys, polls, or other forms of participation. In addition, strong public participation can also help build trust in government and private sector companies by ensuring that decisions and actions are in the public interest. As an investor, it can be very lucrative to buy an airport or hospital, for example. Private schools also make excellent businesses. In conclusion, privatization of public goods and services is a complex and controversial issue. There are both advantages and disadvantages to consider. On the one hand, privatization can lead to increased efficiency and better use of resources. On the other hand, however, it also carries the risk of deterioration in the quality of goods and services offered, as well as a restriction of access for certain groups of the population. It is important that when privatizing public goods and services, the impact on society and the economy is closely monitored and analyzed. It is not possible to make a blanket judgment of privatization as good or bad here. Individual decisions must be based on the context and circumstances. Thanks for watching.